Hi. So this is my S6 economic summative. The issue that I picked to tackle is mega corporations, or in other words, the monopolistic direction that our society is taking today. And I will be presenting a couple of topics in this presentation today. I'll provide a brief overview of what the problem is, why it's wicked. I'll talk a little bit about the key stakeholders that take part in this problem, and what we have to keep in mind when designing our own solution. And then I will present to you my own solution to this problem, as well as some previous solutions that already exist. So my initial causal map, I decided not to include it in this because I didn't really have the problem pinpointed when I was doing the causal map, so it's a little bit convoluted. But I decided to include a part of the causal map in this presentation today. I decided to take kind of one particular branch of it and run with it and see all the different aspects associated with that particular branch. So here I just outline the lifeline of a mega corporation. So what happens is one company faces extreme success, and their growth is very rapid compared to their competition. Therefore, they have very large profit margins. They therefore have the resources to increase their production efficiency, therefore having more money, and more money able to be invested, while simultaneously with these large profit margins, people will see them and want to join in the market, therefore providing more competition. But since more money is being able to be invested because this mega corporation is developing, they will buy out the competition and create artificial entry barriers to stop anybody who would be in their way. This has a rapid snowballing effect when the mega corporations get very big. They adopt more political power because they are so big. This then leads to the rise of the oligopoly when there's a very few number of corporations controlling a single market. With an oligopoly comes a monopoly. And this then leads to consumers having less and less power over the pricing because when a monopoly establishes a price of a product that you need, consumers must abide by the prices that they sell, that they claim. Price levels then become more fragile, they become more malleable. When these mega corporations become so massive, they can no longer be held accountable with some ethical considerations that they might not be taking. They are essentially protected from the government because they are so large, and their failure would lead to demise of the federal economy, for example. And eventually, they become invincible to failure, which is an extremely scary thing because you don't want a corporation to be invincible in any society. So, just briefly, the reason why this problem is wicked is because the tension lies between the producers and the consumers, and the consumers are sole uh, people who do not have that much power against a conglomerate um, producer. Now, what I mean by this is that if the producers were unhappy with something, in order for them to have a lasting and influential impact on the producers, it would require a ton of cooperation, a ton of coordination to actually have any visible impact. Now, an example of this would be the boycott on Nestle in the 1970s with the breast milk problem. And as you can see, Nestle is alive and well, and this very well coordinated and organized boycott was not able to fully eliminate Nestle from the market. Now, just to put this a little bit into context, an iconic example of this problem is Luxottica, which is the owner of more than 80% of the designer slash high quality eyewear industry, which is very close to a monopolistic ownership of an industry. Um, and what if one day they just woke up and decided to suddenly raise the prices of all its products? Now, I am a person with very bad eyesight. I need high quality eyewear, and Luxottica are the only people that I can go to. Even if I can't afford it, I have to abide by the prices that Luxottica sent because I cannot um, substitute away from Luxottica because they are the only people that are able to produce it. Now, this is essentially what a monopoly is. They set a price, and the consumers who may not be able to substitute away from that product have to abide by that price, even if they can't afford it or it's not within their budget. Now, Luxottica is a particularly good example because um, in these industries of designer glasses and luxurious products, it relies heavily on marketing and advertising. Um, and marketing and advertising are sunk costs that Luxottica can afford to pay, but that smaller firms may not be able to. So that just kind of illustrates the danger of having a mega corporation um, and their potential to increase the prices of a product that you need and cannot substitute away from. Now, just briefly, some key stakeholders. I'll just be talking about what I think the priorities of these stakeholders are, and we can review how this plays into uh, how this takes play into the solution that we're going to map out. So for the consumers, their priorities are relatively simple. They want to keep prices low and they want to get the most bang for their buck. The corporations, their priority is to keep profit margins high, even if they have to hike the profit margins because they're the only people that can produce a particular product. Now, it's important to know that they have an extremely high incentive to collude in an oligopoly because a colluding oligopoly is very similar to a monopoly in the way that they have full control over the prices of their product. And the government's priority is, I guess, hopefully, to build sustainable economy for the country and maintain competition, healthy competition in the country. They are a rule setting body, which gives them a lot of potential to intervene and kind of ameliorate the problem. And I assume that they want to keep their expenditures low or to keep their taxes low to gain more trust from their civilians or consumers. Now, I'd just like to quickly touch on a topic that was brought up during the first time that I presented this topic because a lot of people didn't understand how this problem existed because they said, you know, what's stopping new producers who have an obviously superior product, which is cheaper, from just joining in, establishing competition with these large corporations and keeping the prices low. Now, the reason for this is something that we reviewed at the beginning of the year or close to the beginning of the year, which is called artificial entry barriers. And this is a strategic move by these large corporations to stop smaller firms from joining the market. Now, I've already touched on advertising as an entry barrier, but other examples would be predatory pricing as an entry barrier. So these large corporations can afford to have a small loss in the products that they sell if it can squeeze out the competition, which may not be able to afford to give such low prices. And another entry barrier might be brand proliferation. So these large corporations may choose to come out with new brands that appear to compete against each other or appear to be the same size as the smaller firm. And that's definitely an entry barrier because people will adopt those new brands instead of the one that is more expensive because it comes from a smaller firm. So there's a number of social considerations that come with this kind of monopolistic direction that the society is taking, I guess. Something that we learned earlier again in the year is that monopolies are intrinsically inefficient. So as you can see in the graph that I've drawn over here, the highlighted yellow bit is the deadweight loss that monopolies contribute to the society, which means that they have the potential to produce more at a lower price, but they choose not to because obviously they are a monopoly, and this then contributes to inefficiency in the society. While this may not appear like much, if a monopoly is present in many industries, this effect only multiplies. And there's people that want the product that can't have it or can't afford it, etc. Now, again, These large corporations are large enough to disregard ethical practices without severe consequences. And they can also contribute to the political atmosphere of a society because they are so large. And this is particularly dangerous because these large corporations, their full priority is to gain monetary value in their company. And when you have an entity with that priority contributing to your policy making decision, to your policy making operations, it's very dangerous because that they omit some ethical or social considerations that you must make when making policies. Now, the problem is that we do have the Competition Act enacted in Canada, but we still see the amalgamation of corporations. So obviously, we need to devise kind of a solution to the solution.